our flower clubbers have magnolia, calendula, a kale flower, and it's probably going to be white, but it may also be purple, and the beautiful fragrant Earlicheer. If you're new to this game, we usually start with a foliage, so let's start there. We've got our foliage, so I'm just going to take a couple of the bottom leaves off and create this big, beautiful, nice stem. And I'm going to sit that quite low in the vase. So therefore chop the stem quite short. Just make a grid in your vase with the foliages. So I'm going to thread through this stem into the little Y in the stem there and ensure that will sit into position a little bit more and just grid it into the vase. An amazing fact with magnolia is that it is actually, there's fossils from magnolia that prove that magnolia dates back 95 million years. And it's pollinated when you see the flowers. This isn't flowering at the moment, this foliage, but when it does flower, it flowers via beetles rather than bees. So it even predates bees. So magnolia foliage is just next level incredible. The dinosaur of foliages. And let's just create a really nice frame to work with. And these gorgeous golden or orange toned calendula, we're going to pop in next. And with the calendula, a really interesting fact is it continues to grow even once trimmed. So it will grow in your vase. So if you think, oh, I thought it was this long and now all of a sudden it's this long, you'll be able to recognize that it did grow during the week. Sometimes a calendula can seem a little bit droopy, and it's got that sort of natural, like whimsical shape to the stem. There's a difference though between drooping and having a natural curve to the stem. It's not the same thing. So drooping is when it's not fresh. Drooping, that there's no integrity in the stem. It's just really floppy, but you can see these stems are they're still very stiff. Calendula is also used in a lot of herbal remedies for anti-inflammatory properties. Hat flower calendula and calendula grown for eating and using in herbal remedies are two different things. So don't confuse this one and what you get in your box with something that is edible. They're two different things. These cut flowers are not edible. So what I'm doing with this calendula and the placement of it is I'm just using its soft, whimsical shape of the position of the stems, and I'm placing it in the center third of the design. So if we think about the overall floral design as having thirds, so 1/3 vase, 1/3 focal area of the design, and then 1/3 just the top of the foliage and the tips of the foliage. So they're dancing up here. So 1, 2, 3, and placing that calendula. There's going to be a little bit of asymmetry as we typically use with fig and bloom designs. And I'm going to place it in the center third of the design. You may also find that your calendula grows towards the light as you find it's growing within the vase during the week. It may also sort of face towards the light. So if you've got it next to a window, it might grow this way towards the light. There we go. So that's all sitting there, sitting towards and facing towards the left-hand side of the design. And the magnolia is just framing it towards the back. At Fig and Bloom, I don't know why, but we just started calling these leftover little tidbits our friends. And so it weirdly stuck. So I'm just going to leave these out and we're going to use them to frame and finish off the design. So I'll leave these here. In the meantime, we're going to work with the Earlicheer, and this is the Earlicheer here. So what I'm going to do is just place the Earlicheer on the left-hand side of the design, just next to the calendula. So it's just going to balance it out with a nice big hoof of white with lemon tips. When using Earlicheer, if this is your first time receiving Earlicheer, then a little tip to ensure that the Earlicheer and the flowers in the vase last for as long as possible is that we need to prep the Earlicheer ahead of time, usually about 1 hour ahead of time. So we just get a secondary vase, we're using this one here. And what we do with the Earlicheer is we just trim about 1 inch off the stems And we do that about an hour ahead of time and pop it in a secondary vase, because what happens is Earlicheer releases a sap into the vase, and we want that sap to get released. So once it's been trimmed, it will release the sap, because we want the sap to get released so it doesn't interfere with, or the sap doesn't get into the vase with the other flowers, because then it can deteriorate the life of the other flowers in the vase. We love using Earlicheer. We really love enjoying it while it lasts, because it's got that beautiful fragrance and it's only here for a short period of time in the yearly calendar. So we really love to use it and enjoying it while it lasts. It's also locally grown, and we love to support our local growers. So once you've trimmed the stems, waited about an hour for the Earlicheer to release that sap, then we're good to use it. So we've trimmed the stems ahead of time here, and we're just going to go right ahead and select the tallest flowers of the bunch, and that's these ones here. So I've just selected the tallest stems of the bunch, and I'm going to grab an elastic band, spare elastic band, and I'm going to tie them all together. And then I'm going to slip them into the vase. And that is just going to ensure that the position is held, even though a lot of them, as you can see, if you place them individually into the vase, they just do their own thing and they tend to spread out quite a lot. But if we control the cluster and the design a little bit like that by putting that elastic band around them, then it just creates a more controlled design, and you can see exactly where the flowers are going to stand in the vase. So once that's there, then I'm just going to add in the flowers just next to it and build on the design. So that beautiful Earlicheer, I'm not sure if you can see that in the camera, but that beautiful sort of lemony, creamy color is really nicely complementary with the calendula, that orange of the calendula. So what I'm doing now is I'm just finding, you can see a little gap here, and I'm going to fill that with this particular stem because it's the tallest of the stems I've got left over. What I'm going to do is just kind of position it where I need for it to go. And I make sure that my stem isn't too long, it's not too short. And then I'll just, almost using it like a pen, I'll just thread it through the grid of stems that I've made and just twist it through the grid of stems until it finds a little nook and it can pass through easy enough into that gap that I want it to sit in. Alrighty, so it's got that Earlicheer like dancing through the design, and then the calendula is really focused more onto this side of the design. So what we can see now is the Earlicheer just dancing through the design, and then the calendula really centered more on towards the right-hand side of the design. Last but not least is that gorgeous kale flower. So in this particular design, I can see two areas I could place the kale flower, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to choose one over the other. The first location I could put it is down here next to the Earlicheer. So that's adding a different texture, but continuing on the same color. So we like to color block and textural block here at Fig and Bloom. So it's continuing on the same color, but it's adding a different texture down here on the base of the design. Or we could put it up here at the top of the design. So it could be down here or it could be up here. Now, the reason why I'm not going to choose up here is it's quite big and it's quite a heavy sort of focal flower. If I put it up here, it just looks like it's too heavy to sit on top of the beautiful, delicate Earlicheer and the delicate petals of the calendula. Just feels a bit too heavy up here from a design point of view. So I'm actually putting it, my final location is going to be there in the design. So what I'm going to do is cut it down to size. I won't cut it too short just in case, but cut quite a bit off mine because I'm choosing the front of the vase to put it in, and nestle it into that gorgeous pop of Earlicheer. So it's got that gorgeous kind of focal location there, but really the Earlicheer dances through to the design, and then that gorgeous calendula really steals the show with the color pop on the side there. I feel like it still needs a little bit more framing with this magnolia. So I'm going to use our friends just here, particularly this one because it's quite a bit more full. And I'm going to finish off the design just like that, just by putting this stem, just framing the calendula on that side. And then with my other little friend, I'm going to pop him just next to the kale to frame that gorgeous kale flower. I'm actually threading that stem in front of the kale stem rather than behind the kale stem. So if I thread it in front, it will just allow the kale stem just to stay put where it is. And then that gorgeous magnolia just frames it just like that. Here's that final design with the gorgeous magnolia just framing all of the flowers, and then the flowers just dancing in front, designed to intertwine within each other, and then that gorgeous kale flower just on the left-hand side, and the beautiful collection of calendula just on the right-hand side of the design.